Good morning, fourth grade. We are going to go ahead and get started on our next section of chapter 12, which is section 3. And today we're going to be talking about how to compare decimals. So before we actually get into decimals, I'm going to show you, kind of just like as a quick reminder, how we compare numbers that do not have decimals. So I'm just going to write out two numbers. All right, 41,625 and 41,632. Okay. Now, when you compare numbers like this, when you compare any number, you start with the largest place value. This number goes up to the 10,000th place. So that's where I'm going to begin when I compare. And I'm just going to kind of use these cards here because I only want to compare one spot. This card's a little big. Can I fold it to make it smaller? We're going to see. Oh, it's still too big. Let me do one more time. Okay, that's good enough. All right, so I'm only going to compare the highest place first. Once I compare that, I move on to the next one. So as I can see, the 10,000th place is the same amount. This would represent 40,000 in this number and 40,000 in that number. So since they're the same, I go to the next one. Okay, this would be the thousands place. Whoops, go back. There we go. This is the thousands place. Those ones both represent 1,000. Since they're the same, I go to the next place. Okay, this is the hundreds place. They are both the same. I go to the next number. The tens place is the first spot that they are different. I can stop right here. I don't have to compare the next set of numbers. I can stop at the tens place because this is where they're different the first time. And I look at 2, that represents 20. I look at the 3, that represents 30. I know that this number to my right has to be bigger. So I capped my pen. So I write a greater than symbol in between. Okay? Decimals are the same way. You start with the highest place, you compare that, and then you see, if you need to move on. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Let's try one. And you probably want to be grabbing a pencil, following along with me at this point. I'm just going to write a number 1. And I'm going to compare two numbers. I'm going to leave some space in between so that I can write the correct symbol, either greater than or less than, or equal to. We might do some of those as well. So let's see what two numbers I'm going to work with. Let's do 11 hundredths and 9 hundredths. Okay, so what you're going to do, start with the highest amount. That would be the spot before my decimal point, which is the ones place. Now, as you can see, I don't have any ones. They're both 0. They're the same amount. So I go to the direct next spot, which would be the 10th place. And I compare those. This number has a 1 in the 10th place. This number has a 0 in the 10th place. 1/10 is greater than 0/10. So I know that this number must be bigger. Okay? Not too bad, right? Let's try another one. I'm going to put a number 2. And let's try, 10 and 75 hundredths compared to 10 and 81 hundredths. Whoops. Maybe you guys would like to see what I'm writing. Okay. So again, you start with the highest spot. If they are the same, you move to the next one. So I start, the tens spot is filled in with a 1. They're the same in both numbers. I go over to the ones. They are 0 in both numbers. I go over to the tenths. I see a difference here. That's the first difference that I see. This has a 7 in the tenths place. This has an 8 in the tenths place. So this number must be bigger. Remember, when you draw your middle symbol, you always want the bigger side to face the bigger number and the smaller side to face the smaller number. Let's try another one. Okay, let's do 1.5 and 4.49. Okay, now looking at this right away, you might think this one because it's got a 9 in it, but no. If we follow our rule of comparing the highest first, we can easily see which one is bigger. So the highest here is the ones. I compare the ones. They're both 4. I move on to the tenths. This has a 5 in the tenths place. This has a 4 in the tenths place. So we can see 4 5/10 is greater than 4 49/100. Okay? And try a couple more. Let's do, let's see, 6.7, or sorry, 6 7/10. 6 70/100. There we go. All right. So let's take a look here. Start with your highest. Look at the ones. 6 for this one, 6 for that one. They're the same. I move on. 7 for this one, 7 for that one. They're the same. I move on. This one appears to not have anything. But remember, guys, what is secretly after this number? There's a hidden 0. And I'm just going to kind of write it in there in dotted lines. And these two are the same number. Equal to. Okay? Now, there's another way you can do these. I'm going to show you 2 examples of how you can do these with base 10 blocks. Okay, so I'm just going to put a number 5, and we'll compare 11 42/100, 11 39/100. All right, so let's say for a moment you were unsure. Okay, well, I can see that the numbers before the decimal point are the exact same. So really, I just need to compare these two. And I can do that with base 10 blocks. All right, I'm going to pretend that for a moment this is 42, and I'm going to draw out base 10 blocks to match 42. I'm going to pause and do that. I'm going to have you guys do it as well. Okay, so I drew base 10 blocks to represent the decimal portion of both of my numbers. So here is 42/100. I drew 1, 2, 3, 4 with the rods and 2 units. And then for 39/100, I do 3 rods and 9 individual units. So you can see this one has 3 more blocks than this one does, because I would need 1, 2, 3 more in order for them to be equal. So this guy must be greater. Okay, that's one way to do it with base 10 blocks. You can also do it with a 100 grid as well, and we're going to try that now. Let's do, we'll call this number 6. Move this up a little bit. Move on up. This will be number 6, and we will compare 7 and 15/100, 7 and 2/10. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So, since the ones are the same, I only really need to focus on the decimal portion of my numbers. So another way that I can use base 10 blocks to help me is to draw a hundreds grid. So I'm going to draw two 100 grids for each of my decimals. And I'm going to show you how you're going to fill them in. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I have drawn two hundreds grids, and I'm going to show you how we're going to fill them in. I'll do the first one for 15 hundredths. So I would shade in one whole rod of that hundreds grid, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. For the next one, I would shade in 1, 2 whole rods. So as you can see, this one, which is representing my 2/10, is bigger than this one, which is representing my 15 hundredths. So I know the symbol I need to draw between. So that is how you compare decimals. You can use your base 10s, either your rods or your hundreds sheets, or you can do it by starting with your biggest and moving to the next space and comparing like that. So I'm going to have you guys pause here. You're going to hop into your books. You're going to work on pages 641 and 642. Some of them are going to be using base 10 blocks and hundreds sheets. So that's kind of the reason I put them in here, just so when you get into the homework, you're not confused when you look at those. So go ahead and work on that now.